Salutations, Curse Nation. My name is Wolf, and you're watching the Cursed Contact Show on the Wolf Channel. My channel.
I'm the most wanted man on my island. Except I'm not on my island, of course. More's the pity.
Your island? You mean Ireland?
Yeah, it's mine.
You're a madman.
I've come to the right place then.
There's a Curse Contacts podcast too, by the way. I live stream on X now and then upload to YouTube. Check the podcast section on my YouTube profile to watch the episodes I've uploaded so far. And grab some merch from the Cursed Item Shop. Link in my bio. And also, just a quick shout out for Tanya'sArtGallery.com. Alright, let's go. Happy Thanksgiving, pilgrims! All my past videos have been news-centric, and so today, for this episode, we're going to take a break from that to talk about Aleister Crowley, German, Nazi, Native American, Nephilim, space aliens. So let's get this ball rolling. Starting with some more breaking news!
Got him! Got him!
The Spielberg version may not have been too far off, at least not from what a Connecticut police officer named Robert Klein saw back in April of 2022. Officer Klein is a married father of 4 and a 25-year law enforcement veteran in Lower Fairfield County, about 40 minutes north of New York City and about a par 5 from where I live. I am showing you a reenactment of what the officer saw, okay? So you can kind of see from his perspective what this is a reenactment, though. I just want you to know that this guy is not a random nut job. He's an officer of the law. As a UFO spotter or anything else, he is what my business calls a highly reliable source. Did I mention he coaches football and basketball in his off hours? And on that particular April night, Officer Klein was barely into his overnight shift when he says his patrol car filled with light on a dark stretch of road that runs along a lake. Sounds a lot like what Richard Dreyfuss saw. You're watching this really well done reenactment of his experience. The light was different from anything he'd ever seen before. It glowed like this, like red and green and white and orange, changed colors over and over, and it hovered over his car before flying, zipping across the lake in the blink of an eye, AKA not earthly speeds.
This time about aliens, though. If you weren't aware, there was a congressional hearing a couple of weeks ago about UFOs. And then there was a Senate hearing. And then a Pentagon press conference. And everyone is going crazy right now about aliens.
Hi, we've gone through a preliminary data collection stage. And to summarize some of the things that we've learned, the current data collection efforts regarding UAPs are unsystematic and fragmented across various agencies, often using instruments uncalibrated for scientific data collection. Balloons recently, that data is classified. And that's because of a desire to not reveal. The current existing data and eyewitness reports alone are insufficient to provide conclusive evidence about the nature and origin of every UAP event. They're often uninformative due to lack of quality control and data curation. To understand UAP better, targeted data collection, thorough data curation, and robust analyses are needed. Such an approach will help to discern unexplained UAP sightings, but even then, there's no guarantee that all sightings will be explained.
For convening today's UAP independent study public meeting and inviting me to continue to participate. I also emphasized to Congress that only a very small percentage of UAP reports display signatures that could reasonably be described as anomalous. The majority of unidentified objects reported to AARO and in our holdings demonstrate mundane characteristics of readily explainable sources. While a large number of cases in Arrow's holdings remain technically unresolved, this is primarily due to a lack of data associated with those cases. Without sufficient data, we are unable to reach defendable conclusions that meet the high scientific standards we set for resolution. Meanwhile, for the few objects that do demonstrate potentially anomalous characteristics, Arrow is approaching these cases with the highest level of objectivity and analytic rigor. This includes physical testing and employing modeling and simulation to validate our analyses and the underlying theories, and then peer reviewing those results before reaching any conclusions. This is an example of one that I showed at the hearing recently. This is a spherical orb, metallic, in the Middle East, 2022, by an MQ-9. I will come back to the sensor question that David raised here in a moment. This is a typical example of the thing that we see most of. We see these all over the world, and we see these in making very interesting apparent maneuvers. This one in particular, however, I would point out, demonstrated no enigmatic technical capabilities and was no threat to airborne safety. While we are still looking at it, I don't have any more data other than that. This is a newly released video. You'll notice there are two dots moving back and forth. There is a plane at the bottom that's moving across the screen, and now there are three dots moving back and forth. The moving back and forth is from the sensor and the platform that's collecting it. This is a P3 on a training mission in the Western United States. They picked these up and they tried to intercept and was unable to intercept them. The reason they couldn't catch them is because after further analysis, it was shown that those objects were actually much farther away from the P3 than they thought. And in fact, when we went even deeper, looked at air traffic control data, we were able to match those to aircraft on a major flight corridor heading into a major airport for landing. This is the kind of thing that can spoof and or provide misperception of both very highly trained pilots as well as sensors.
Anomalous characteristics. What numbers are we talking about? How big is your data?
At the time of my open hearing, we were at 650 cases-ish. We are now over 800 analytics when we report out. But the numbers I would say that we see are possibly really anomalous are less than single-digit percentages of that total database. So maybe 2 to 5-ish%.
That it is really disheartening to hear of the harassment that our panelists have faced online, all because they're studying this topic. NASA stands behind our panelists, and we do not tolerate abuse. Harassment only leads to further stigmatization of the UAP field, significantly hindering the scientific progress and discouraging others to study this important subject matter.
Up until recently, every one of these UFO hearings I felt like was one big nothing burger. This time, things are getting weird, though.
Picture a hot dog bun and throw all the stars, the hundreds of stars that there are in the universe, into a bag, and put the universe into a bag, and you all of a sudden, they become
the whole Big Bang explosion.
We have so many topics to cover in this video and schizoid all together into a semi-coherent narrative. I'm going to take you down one of the wildest rabbit holes that's ever landed on my desk. And oh, you thought I would come empty-handed? Wrong! This story comes with the wackiest declassified FOIA documents I have ever seen to back it up. We're going to talk about Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, NASA, the Nazis, fucking flying saucer space aliens, angels, demons, exploding laboratories, opening portals, cryptids, shadow people, DMT entities, and the rise of woke. So buckle your seatbelts, tape your eyelids open. You don't want to miss this wild ride. I'm yet to see anyone cover this as in-depth as I'm about to, by the way. So now, let's get into it. Who was Aleister Crowley? Born Edward Aleister Crowley on October 12th of 1875 in Learnington, England, and ding dong dead on the 1st of December in 1947 in Hastings, Sussex, England. This dude was weird as fuck, and for reasons I still don't understand, he was highly regarded by social elites and cucks still to this day. His ashes are buried in Hampton, New Jersey. East Coast friends, go piss on his grave. All this information comes from Wikipedia, by the way. He went to a bunch of colleges, including Cambridge. His occupation is listed as having been occultist. Bruh, the turn of the century was so extra. Founder of the Religion of Thelema and author of The Rights of Man, The Book of the Law, The Holy Books of Thelema, and The Stele of Revealing. Some key figures Wiki mentions in his bio are Ankh Af Na Kansu, Francois Rebellious, Victor Newberg, Charles Stansfield Jones, Jack Parsons, who we will be talking about a lot today, Wilfred Talbot Smith, Jane Wolfe, Carl Germer, J.F.C. Fuller, Grady McMurtry, Carcelo Ramos, Mott's Marjorie, I was on a roll right there. Marcelo Ramos Motts, Marjorie Cameron, Sarah Northrup, Helen Parsons Smith, and Phyllis Seckler, Christopher Hyatt, Kenneth Grant, James Lees, Nima Andarabla, James Wasserma, Kenneth Anger, The Scarlet Woman, Rose with Crowley, whatever that is, Mary Est Sturgis, Jeanine Robert Foster, Rosie Minor, Marie Rowling, Leah Hersig, and Leela Waddell. All of them are linked on the right-hand column of the Crowley Wikipedia page if you're interested in further researching this topic. Core concepts of Crowleyism include one star in sight, great work, true will, the abyss, magic, spelled like ick, Quabala, spelled with a Q, holy guardian angel, Thoth tarot, yoga, Gnostic mass, and the Aeon. All those concepts sound like things you're familiar with, but they likely aren't. This is a classic aspect of the schizo ramblings of Aleister Crowley, and why I'm so bewildered that anyone took him seriously. All his concepts are incoherent nonsense derived from recycled relics of history around the world. Gods, ghosts, ghouls, goddesses, and guys fucking kids. You name it, this dude was a absolute clown and people loved him. And still do. My dog hates him. Just got like an ET blanket on her. Damn, my packages. Here, let me use this gun. It's unloaded, calm down. Okay, I'm gonna die. That was whack. It's whack as fuck. I like literally need to scratch my back. We're gonna start again at the beginning. Swear to God, there's demons blocking me from doing this episode. I swear to God, I swear to God. I swear to God, I swear to God, I swear to God. I'm thoroughly creeped out by this shit. Protect me, God. I invoke the spirit of Jesus Christ. A prolific writer, he was published widely over the course of his life. When anyone self-identifies to you as a prophet, according to the Catholic Church 400 years ago, you could burn them for heresy. Just a reminder, let's make America great again, y'all. Born to a wealthy family in Royal Learnington Spa, Warwickshire, Crowley rejected his parents' fundamentalist Christian Plymouth Brethren faith to pursue an interest in Western esotericism. He was educated at Trinity College at the University of Cambridge, where he focused his attention upon mountaineering and poetry, resulting in several publications. Side note, he also later spent however long it takes to walk across China, getting blasted on heroin. This guy was a real piece of work, I tell ya. Continuing. Some biographers allege that here he was recruited into a British intelligence agency, further suggesting that he remained a spy throughout his life. What do you want to bet? All this occultist crap was a front for him being a spy. Dude was the original Epstein. I'm calling it. Straight up unbearable. Thanks for the back scratcher, Mom. I am legitimately creeped out. Like, what the fuck is going on? In 1898, he joined the esoteric Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, where he was trained in ceremonial magic by Samuel Little McGregor Mathers and Alan Bennett. He went mountaineering in Mexico with Oscar Eckenstein before studying Hindu and Buddhist practices in India. In 1904, he married Rose Edith Kelly, and they honeymooned in Cairo, Egypt, where Crowley wrote down the Book of the Law, a sacred text that serves as the basis for Thelema, which he said had been dictated to him by a supernatural entity named Aiwass. The book announced the start of the Aeon of Horus and declared that its followers should do what thou wilt and seek to align themselves with their true will via the practice of ceremonial magic. After the unsuccessful 1905 Kanchenjunga expedition, unsuccessful because he was getting blasted on heroin the whole time? Question mark? And a visit to India and China for more heroin. Crowley returned to Britain, where he attracted even more heroin, and he attracted the attention of European and American aristocrats as a prolific author of poetry, novels, and occult literature. In 1907, he and George Cecil Jones co-founded an esoteric order, the AA. Bro, stop. You gotta be fucking kidding me. It was called AA? Do you feel an occult yet? AA, through which they propagated Thelema. After spending time in Algeria in 1912, he was initiated into another esoteric order, the German-based Ordo Templi Orientis, or OTO. I for real wonder how many future Nazis were in that order, in which he rose to become the leader of its British branch, which he reformulated in accordance with his Thelemite beliefs. Through OTO, Thelemite groups were established in Britain, Australia, and North America. Crowley spent the First World War in the United States, where he took up painting and campaigned for the German war effort against Britain. His biographers later revealed that he had infiltrated the pro-German movement to assist the British intelligence services. In 1920, he established the Abbey of Thelema, a religious commune in Cefalù, Sicily, where he lived with various followers. His libertine lifestyle led to denunciations of the British press, and the Italian government evicted him in 1923. He divided the following 2 decades between France, Germany, and England, and continued to promote Thelema until his death. Crowley gained widespread notoriety during his lifetime, being a drug user, a bisexual, and an individualist social critic. Crowley has remained a highly influential figure over Western esotericism and the counterculture of the 1960s, and he continues to be considered a prophet in Thelema. He is the subject of various biographies and academic studies. Okay, so now you know who Aleister Crowley was, and I can make sense of this story for you, because the whole thing revolves around Thelema. Without the background information, it would just be such nonsense I couldn't even. So that was unfortunately necessary. We'll get back into Crowley in a minute here. This next part is a synopsis I made of an episode by End Times Productions, interviewing Justin FAULL, who is a filmmaker and producer for FAULL Brothers Productions, best known for his films Higher Entities, Belly of the Beast, and The Hollow Earth Chronicles. In the podcast interview, the first question he proposes is, were there events in history where the American government was working with entities? And, if so, what happened? Can we validate this? And were there factions within the government who stood up against these things? He then goes on to explain a secretive group called the Collins Elite. For context, let's go back in time to the Babylon working rituals of the 1940s. Conducted by Jack Parsons of JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which later became the foundation for what evolved into NASA. JPL was also affectionately known as Jack Parsons Lab. Jack Parsons was not professionally trained, yet he was developing high technology and building rockets. No big deal. Dude was just intuitively designing crafts that could leave the Earth's atmosphere without any foundation in physics or scientific studies. Just winging it. In his early 30s. Yeah, no big deal. Nothing to see here. That's not weird as fuck at all. I fucking can't even with this shit. Justin FAULL claims Parsons was accomplishing this via high-level magic that he was performing as a disciple of Aleister Crowley. Again, people, there were no rocket programs in America before Jack Parsons. So just keep that in mind. Parsons was into theosophy, that is the philosophy of Thelema, the Aleister Crowley religion. He was a disciple of Aleister Crowley himself. Their lifetimes overlapped, and they were friends in real life. And Parsons was also doing ritual magic with, guess who? L. motherfucking Ronald Hubbard. Another question proposed by Justin FAULL is, L. Ron Hubbard wrote science fiction, yet formed a religion based on science fiction. Why is that? Are the ideas coming from another realm? Perhaps, as you're about to find out, L. Ron was obsessed with Crowley's entities and portals. So what was Babylon working? First, I'd have to explain to you what Babylon was. Babylon, also known as the Scarlet Woman, Great Mother, or Mother of Abominations, is a goddess found in the occult system of Thelema, which was established in 1904 with the writing of the Book of the Law by English author and occultist Aleister Crowley. The spelling of the name Babylon was revealed to Crowley in the vision and the voice. Her name and imagery feature prominently in Crowley's Liber Chethvel Valem Abigni. In her most abstract form, Babylon represents the female sexual impulse and the liberated woman. In the Creed of the Gnostic Mass, she also identified with Mother Earth in her most fertile sense. Along with her status as an archetype or goddess, Crowley believed that Babylon had an earthly aspect or avatar, a living woman who occupied the spiritual office of the Scarlet Woman. This office first identified in the Book of the Law, is usually described as a counterpart to his own identification as to Megatherion, or the Great Beast. The role of the Scarlet Woman was to help manifest the energies of the Aeon of Horus. Crowley believed that several women in his life occupied the office of the Scarlet Woman. Babylon's consort is Chaos, called the Father of Life in the Gnostic Mass. Gnostic as in the Crowleyan meaning, not the actual Gnostics. To be very clear, Crowleyism is hogwash! Being the male form of the creative principle, Chaos appears in the Vision and the Voice, and later in Liber Chethvel Valum al Bigfoot. Separate from her relationship with her consort, Babylon is usually depicted as riding the beast. She is often referred to as a sacred whore, and her primary symbol is the chalice or grail. As Crowley wrote in his book, The Book of Thoth, quote, "She rides astride the beast. In her left hand she holds the reins, representing the passion which unites them. In her right she holds aloft the cup, the holy grail aflame with love and death. In this cup are mingled the elements of the sacrament of the Aeon." Schizo alert! Now, allow me to continue free associating for another hour and a half. Forgot to make my tinfoil hat. And what was Babylon working? From Wikipedia, again, today. The Babylon working was a series of magic ceremonies or rituals performed from January to March 1946 by author, pioneer, rocket fuel scientist, and grandfather of Elon Musk. No, I made that one up. He was an occultist, just winging it, doing rocket science. No big deal. The Babylon working rituals were performed by Jack Parsons and Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard. The ritual was designed to manifest an individual incarnation of Babylon. The project was based on the ideas of Aleister Crowley and his description of a similar project in his 1917 novel, Moonchild. Rituals of the working. Almost immediately after Parsons declared that the first of the series of rituals was complete and successful, he met Marjorie Cameron in his own home and regarded her as the elemental that he and Hubbard had called through the ritual. Soon, Parsons began the next stage of the series, an attempt to conceive a child through sex magic workings, although no child was conceived. This did not affect the ritual of the ritual to that point. After the ritual, he dumped a load in her anyway. Parsons and Cameron, who Parsons now regarded as the Scarlet Woman, Babylon, called forth by the ritual, soon married, and birthed the Antichrist? The rituals performed drew largely upon rituals and sex magic described by English author and occultist teacher Aleister Crowley. Crowley was in correspondence with Parsons during the course of the Babylon working. Remember, these dudes were all butt buddies in real life. And Crowley warned Parsons of his potential overreactions to the magic he was performing, while simultaneously deriding Parsons' work to others. Because he was a goddamn spy, gosh damn it! What is Liber 49? The Book of Babylon. A brief text titled Liber 49, self-referenced within the text as The Book of Babylon, was written by Jack Parsons as a transmission from the goddess or force called Babylon, received by him during the Babylon working. Parsons wrote that Liber 49 constituted a fourth chapter of Crowley's Liber Elvel Legis, more widely known as the Book of the Law, or the Holy Text of Thelema. Even though he wasn't able to say abracadabra and make Marjorie Cameron pop out a baby, he still made dang sure to dump a load in her with his magic wand.
You'll get Gryffindor into trouble again. I'll fight you.
Neville, I'm really, really sorry about this. Petrificus totalis.
and so Babylon Working was successful, according to Jack Parsons, that sick, twisted sumbitch. He said in his Antichrist manifesto that was a child. How did this just move? He said in his Antichrist manifesto that a child was conceived during the act and that a spirit known as Hilarion, or the Whore of Babylon, was what they had manifested. These guys loved whores.
I am proposing to that dirty whore. And I love boiling denim and banging whores. Roxy, God bless you. You were a good whore. One of the things I like doing most is banging whores. I go out and bang a lot of whores. Yeah.
They, those involved in Babylon Working, believed that America was the final battle line, as in America itself represented the place of the last stand in Crowley's fight to defeat God.
Yeah, let's kill God, yeah!
3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Vehicles pitching downrange.
After engines. This is one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen in my entire life. Coming up on hot stage separation confirmed.
Booster coming in. See how fast this vehicle is moving on the left hand. Landing burn. 13 engines. Megadilla has popped the booster. At the launch tower. What an incredible view! Wow. I don't know about you, but we're losing our stuff up here.
These dudes were fucking nuts. Allegedly, because the ritual was successful, they had opened a portal and created a rift. And via the rift, entities began to come through into our physical reality. Not just the coming through via the alleged act of the Whore of Babylon birthing the moon child, i.e. motherfucking antichristicular cancer, but other entities too. All the bad things. Name something spooky and it's Jack Parsons' fault, basically. Ghosts, shadow people, UFOs, and your balls hurting. It's all aliens, which are all really demons, and succubi, according to this conspiracy theory that I didn't invent. Immediately after the rituals concluded in the Mojave Desert, which lasted for months, mind you, in 1947, suddenly the federal government was getting flooded with reports of sightings of paranormal activity. Enter Roswell and the whole UFO obsession ever since. People all over the place started having paranormal encounters and reporting it to law enforcement. Federal authorities then responded to the reports, since it's literally their job to investigate. There were reports of UFOs, demons, winged beings, and all kinds of weird paranormal shit. Demonic activity. Remember, this is still during the lead up to the alien UFO boom, which all happened following this ritual that Jack Parsons claimed finally worked. Although he wasn't classically trained, and even if he was a wannabe, the man was a scientist. He did build our first rockets after all. And so, he did the ritual for several months, developed a hypothesis, and proved that it was factually based and true, or at least in his eyes that it was. Finally, after so many reports about weird shit, The government put together a group of researchers to get answers about what exactly took place out there in the deserts of California with Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard. You guys, this is a story straight out of the X-Files, except it's real, and I have the document. So, the feds ask Parsons directly if the ritual worked or not, to which he replies, "I think so," allegedly. Jack Parsons died in a laboratory explosion in Pasadena, California, at age 37 in 1952. Occult beliefs claim whoever opened the portal had to close the portal. They also claim karma's a bitch, bro. But Jack Parsons was now dead and could not close the portal. Okay, wait a minute. What did we do to deserve this shit? Upon further introspection, maybe the universe is organized chaos. So, this group still researching after Parsons' death, and they know the government was trying to make contact with entities. With Parsons now dead, the only proven method the government has left of contacting entities to close the portal is Jack Parsons' occult research about demons. So they continue where he left off and ask demons for help, because that's a great idea. During this, there is a small faction known as the Collins Elite. The Collins Elite was a small group of Christians inside a larger research group for the government. That big ol' research group I was just yammering about? Yeah, those guys. The big group was originally created to get to the bottom of what was causing an uptick in paranormal activity and sightings, etc. But once the federal government, began to engage in satanic rituals and magic and alchemy, the Collins Elite, the group within a group, decided they didn't sign up for it. They then factionized and took a stand as opposed Christians. So, technology is being given to the government by demons via these rituals, allegedly. The Collins Elite says this is too dangerous and that they do not support it. The Collins Elite concludes that the aliens are going to take over, and to protect our country from the aliens, we have to instate a forced theocracy. God damn it. Instate a forced theocracy based on the law of Moses. Christian Sharia law, anybody? The Collins Elite believed that if America went under the law of Moses, it would be untouchable by the entities. I mean, if they are demons, yeah, I guess that checks out.
All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. This Bible is a reminder that the biggest thing we have to bring back America and to make America great again is our religion. In the end, we do not answer to in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. Christians are under siege. We must protect content that is pro-God. We love God, and we have to protect anything that is pro-God. We must defend God in the public square and not allow the media or the left-wing groups to silence, censor, or discriminate against us.
The larger research group did not exist, by the way. It was what is known as a Limited Access Program, or LAP. In a nutshell, LAP means no one has to know about this. It is top secret above top secret. Basically, only the group is aware of its existence and maybe a government director, and that's it. No one else. In the podcast episode with Justin FAULL, he claims there is a declassified federal document in the FBI vault that anyone can access. FOIA number 6751. I went to the FBI vault website and could not find it. I also redirected to the actual FBI official site and also could not find it there. I then found it on a UFO forum, and holy fuck, this document is glorious. It is the most skitzed out government document I've ever seen, and also, I kind of believe it. Memorandum 6751. Memorandum 6751 is a U.S. document dated the 8th of July, 1947, declassified in 2010 and disclosed to the public from the FBI archives. Memorandum acknowledges the existence of alien presence. Former FBI officer John D'Souza, author of The Extra Dimensionals, True Tales and Concepts of Alien Visitors, points to the Memorandum as a significant document in ufology. Memorandum 6751 remained classified for 63 years until Executive Order 13526, which allowed for its declassification and release. The memorandum may not be a smoking gun, but it is significant in that it remained untouched from the disinformation campaigns of Project Grudge, Blue Book, or Red Book. For context, Project Grudge was a short-lived project by the U.S. Air Force to investigate unidentified flying objects. Grudge succeeded Project Signing in February 1949, the year immediately after all the shit I'm talking about. No big deal. They weren't trying to cover it up. They weren't trying to cover up Babylon working. Nope, not the sea air. They would never do something like that, guy. Oh my god. Grudge was then followed by Project Blue Book. The project formally ended in December 1949, but continued in a minimal capacity until late 1999. Memorandum 6751 Overview. Memorandum 6751 discloses the presence of supernormal beings from another world which interpenetrates with our own and is not perceptible to us. The region from which they come corresponds to the Lokas and Talas. Students of esoteric matters will understand these terms. Verbatim, that's what it says. And the Lokas and Talas are from Hinduism, if you're wondering. And yes, they are concepts recycled into Thelema. If you had no clue what that meant, then let's look it up real quick. In Hinduism, Lokas refer to world spheres or localities roughly corresponding to the planes of nature in theosophy, but with significant differences. The names and number of lokas different according to the sources. The Puranas give 7, while in Sankhya and Vedanta there are 8, all with differing names. If you've ever done DMT or read experience reports, to me, it sounds like a similar description to the floating basketball orbs of light described by Terence McKenna. Back to Memorandum 6751 from UFOfandom.com. The document was produced in San Diego, California on July 8, 1947. It describes disclosure of supernormal presence as a public duty. From line 2 of the document, verbatim, quote, "Their mission is peaceful, and their agenda is to settle on Earth and learn to play musical instruments." Line 3, "The beings are human-like, but much larger in size." Lines 4 and 6 describes multidimensional beings, entities from an etheric planet which interpenetrates with our own. Line 7, "Weaponized with radiant energy, they enter the etheric or cross dimensions at will." Line 8 likens their world to Lokas or Talas, and the document concludes with stating, "Let the newcomers be treated with kindness." A section of the document, the actual addendum, says, "The front contains the controls, the middle portion is a laboratory, the rear contains armament, which consists essentially of a powerful energy apparatus, perhaps a ray." Also, throughout the document are obvious code words from previous documents. So this was definitely something they'd been working on. Here's a full screenshot of the document. Zoom in on it and tell me what the fuck crows are. And UFOfandom.com says, "It's because of this U.S. document that the pursuit for UFO alien disclosure cannot be laid to rest. It makes up one legitimate page for the UFO alien Bible, if one ever existed." UFO alien database. So, Addendum 6751 was written in the 1940s by a prominent member of academia, whoever he was, and submitted to the FBI. In the document, they make a case that entities are not space aliens, but are interdimensional entities that are crossing over from a plane known as the ethereal plane. Are they describing the DMT plane? I genuinely want answers on that one. The government received the documents in the late 40s, and language of the document came directly from Theosophy, the philosophy of Thelema, the Aleister Crowley religion. It was described as supernormal, the old way of saying paranormal. And the document claimed it was perceived via supernormal means and therefore needed to be discounted for being invalid information, which is explained in the memo on the cover letter of the document, added by the government, of course. Document was then classified and then forwarded to all the highest levels of FBI and intelligence, etc. Why would they declare it nonsense and then classify it? And why would they forward it to all the heads of intelligence? Unless it was real. The only explanation is that it was an early form of a joke office memo. I honestly don't have an explanation for that one other than that. And if it was just a big joke to them, then why did they classify it? So Justin continues by claiming the government has known since the 1940s these are not aliens, they are entities. And that is supported by document 6751 and how it describes that they are from an ethereal planet or realm that shares the same plane as our own physical reality but is not visible. I imagine that like a picture layered over another picture, another dimension. And he continues to explain they've known this since the 40s, yet have promoted an alien agenda ever since that exact same time period. A little side note, this is a bajillion% true. I highly implore you to watch a documentary that used to be on Netflix and is now free to view on YouTube. Link in my Telegram in the conspiracies only subcategory. Mirage Men is about how the US government sent spies to drive a man completely insane for accidentally stumbling onto radio frequencies during the development of the SR-71 Blackbird. To cover up the possibility of anyone finding out about the stealth bomber, they convinced the guy he was receiving signals from aliens. And it was that story which had a lot to do with the UFO community becoming as big as it did over the following decades. And so, according to Justin FAULL, they not only used aliens to cover up the Blackbird, but they also used aliens to cover up all the weird paranormal activity that never stopped spiking ever since 1947. And now we ask, what are the entities described in 6751, and are they demons, fallen angels, or embodiments of the imagination? What the fuck are they? Justin explains that 6751 does not give specific descriptions of the entities. He says that later on in ufology, the government uses a series of classifications to describe the entities, but that 6751 predates any of that. More so, it lays the foundation for how those classifications were later decided. The document does mention some interesting things, such as traveling through dimensions and stuff of that nature, but no specifics on describing the individual entities. He then alleges that the government has training operations where they are actively training agents in occult practices and how to operate in occult magic and occult sciences. He also points out that in the 1940s, the government stood very firmly on Christian morals, yet behind the scenes was doing all this weird shit with Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard. He says the Collins elite wanted to start a non-violent resistance to what was taking place with the government's exploration of occult sciences.
I have something to show you. Friends, join us! We have a spectacle! not have been enough humiliation.
Lord Oliphant tried to surrender 2 days ago. Edward refused to accept.
Wants to be certain we get the message.
Robert! Everyone needs to understand that this surrender is final. Like the Greek fire! Also, it took 3 months to build, so I don't want to waste it. My lords and ladies, I give you the Werewolf!
He continues to explain that members of the Collins elite noticed a shift in people's lives, personalities, and etc. after going down this dark, twisted path for the U.S. government. They observed that those involved became blinded by a lust for power, and after getting a taste of it, allegedly, according to Justin. He continued explaining that the more people communicate with these entities, the hunger for power becomes greater and greater and greater until they are no longer trying to get answers but asking for blessings in the form of technology to further the reaches of their power over the rest of humanity. And, by default, structuring it right into the government. So there was a power exchange of trading spiritual power for higher technology. The government, for years, sold humanity to the devil for more and more tech to rule over us with. Allegedly. And he then explains that the entities have no need for the government. What they need is to set up the scene for the birth of the Antichrist, and that the long-term plan is for the governments of the world to be all united under the Antichrist. They've been working on this since the beginning of time. They tried it with the Tower of Babel and it didn't work, he says. And so, here we are today, and what happened between then and now? He claims he learned from one of his contacts, Stan Deyo, who is known for having worked on anti-gravity crafts for the UK. Justin says Stan Deyo says this ties into Operation High Jump. That's the one with Admiral Byrd dropping a nuke on Hollow Earth in Antarctica. By the way, the Flat Earthers' favorite story ever told. He says Operation High Jump was a joint task force with the US government, the UK government, and the Australian government, and that the task force included, you guessed it, Stan motherfucking Deyo. Stan Deyo was working as a secret agent for the FBI in Australia inside of the deep underground military bases. And he said, while he was in the program, he knew about the deal with Eisenhower. Allegedly, Eisenhower worked with aliens. Look that one up on your own time. You'll have fun exploring his granddaughter's UFO work. Stan Deyo claims he knew that Eisenhower made a deal to collaborate with these entities. Justin believes that the evidence points to two events taking place. They were a year apart, one after the other. The first incident was at Edwards Air Force Base, where Eisenhower disappeared, and they called a media blackout to hide it, similar to when Hillary Clinton and Obama disappeared at a Bilderberg meeting. This is all alleged by Justin, to be abundantly clear. With the alleged Eisenhower disappearance, it was excused as him having a dental emergency. And then the incident a year later, Justin says, was the Holloman Air Force Base event, which had witnesses. The eyewitnesses claimed to have seen Eisenhower meet with UFOs that landed on the base. Aliens got out of the crafts and then met with Eisenhower and then left in the crafts. Justin claims this to have happened around 1955. Based on government reports and witness accounts, one can infer that there was a massive uptick in paranormal activity after the Babylon working rituals of 1947, and then alien craft sightings dramatically spiked after 1955. And now, today, they're happening more than ever. What is happening? What Justin FAULL believes is happening is the rift that Justin described as a tear in the space-time continuum was opened. He also describes it as a portal or stargate. The federal government got involved. He explains once they began to communicate with the entities, there was now a relationship being built between the federal government and whatever these entities are. He claims it was at this point that it was no longer of shock value that entities want to work with us being the federal government. Justin says this is the point that connects the rituals of 1947 with the events of 1955. He says once that door was opened in 1947 by Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard to be communicating / working with entities, it was after this point that led to so-called aliens meeting on the runway with President Eisenhower in the mid-1950s. At this point in the podcast, Justin circles back to his story about going on a road trip to meet Ray Boucher to learn of the Collins elite. He says Ray was contacted by the Department of Defense. Justin then stops to emphasize this is one of the most important parts of his whole dissertation on the occult and describes it as a, quote, haymaker moment. In his documentary. All of this is originally disclosed in Justin's film Higher Entities, by the way. He picks back up the story saying him and Ray were having a discussion during the road trip and decided to pull the cameras out just in case the conversation got juicy. It was at this point that Justin and Ray talked about President Eisenhower. He says he was informed by Ray that there were 2 events that happened, but that history blurs them into one singular event of 1955, when in reality there were 2 separate events. The 2 events were, 1, Edwards Air Force Base in 1954, and 2, Holloman Air Force Base in 1955. They happened a year apart. Justin claims Ray informed him that the feds met with gray aliens and that this was on record. And then there was another group of entities he describes as the Tall Whites, or Nordics. He says when Eisenhower met with the Tall Whites, they informed him, "Do not collaborate with the Greys. They are deceptive and seek to enslave you." Justin then says the Greys are demonic and the Tall Whites were warning Eisenhower never to enter into a covenant with the Greys. He then goes on to explain that this is what set the groundwork to create Good versus Evil, Aliens Edition. Good alien versus bad alien. Good cop, bad cop. Are you getting where this is going? This all fits in with the New Age belief of Intergalactic Federation of Light, or the fucking hippies who call themselves light workers. Pay for the Gaia channel if you want to go insane learning about that. The old school tinfoil hat wearing woke hippies, yeah, we're taking our word back, okay? The woke hippies believe that there is some sort of higher order of interdimensional beings or entities that are fighting the fight of good versus evil, and they believe that these higher dimensional beings are our saviors and that they should be worshipped. And they believe in all sorts of ascended masters and mediums and quacked out bullshit that all ties into basically worshiping aliens, which circles back to this shit that actually fucking happened. Even if it was fake and magic is fake and God is fake, Jack Parsons did the Babylon working. And shit has been weird ever since. So please explain why in the comments. I desperately need more engagement on this channel, guys. Tell me I'm a piece of shit. Comment 1,000 times in a row. Nice try, Diddy. Justin continues by explaining that it's tough to say if the entities the government dealt with is still dealing with are the Intergalactic Federation of Light, or if that's even something that exists. Because in Justin's own words, what we are dealing with here is a bunch of liars. Satan's a liar. His demons are liar. That's why when someone starts playing with the Ouija board, their grandmother starts talking to them. It's not your grandmother, bro. That's a demon. That's an entity who wants to deceive you. They want to steal, to kill, and to destroy. He then explains that as Christians, people must be vigilant and sober-minded because Satan is humanity's adversary. He explains the misconception of Satan as well. He says people envision it as the devil or some grandiose evil being, Lucifer, etc., when in reality, Satan comes from Ha-Satan in Hebrew, meaning the adversary. And here's what Google said when I searched Ha-Satan. Ha-Satan, the adversary, is an ambiguous figure in the earliest Hebrew texts. Far from being the malevolent, majestic embodiment of pure evil imagined by Christians, the figure we confront in the Hebrew Bible can sometimes be a source of assistance around the heavenly court. Bro, what the fuck was that? Continuing. Justin explains when we say Satan, what it really represents is the whole team of evil beings, all conspiring together for the sake of evil purposes. So think like everything that drives the war machine, all aspects, all the bad things. He claims that it's all the fallen angels and demons and aliens and entities, etc., all conspiring together to comprise this side of evil that is Ha-Satan, or Satan, the adversary, as in the adversary to all of existence. Justin then explains his personal belief is based on the Book of Revelations and based on his own use of a calculator and understanding some definitions. He then says, quote, I was able to calculate that if a third of the angels fell with Lucifer, the Satan, if a third of them fell with him, remember, we're talking about entities here, guys. He explains this is all based on the Bible passage, quote, a third of the stars got knocked down to earth. Revelations 12:4. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to earth, and the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. Justin's theory is that those stars were the angels that fell with Lucifer. He then claims that if you do your math, then you can figure out that equals 30 to 50 plus million fallen angels on the surface of Earth. The amount of visible stars minus 2/3. Out of those millions, some of them were put into chains, such as the ones that committed sexual sin. This is explained in Genesis 6. When human beings began to increase in number on Earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God, being Elohim, saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes, Gibor of old men of renown, Shem. Justin says they, as in the Nephilim, have been locked up in chains. Quote, but the ones that are not locked up in chains, just think about it. 30 to 50 million plus fallen angels on the face of the earth. That is more than the population of the largest state in America, says Justin. According to this whole theory, humanity is dealing with a very large group of entities that have the ability to deceive all of mankind and steer the direction society evolves, leading us towards what is described as the final grand deception. So now, the podcast picks back up where it left off about the Collins Elite. Let's refresh for a second. The group that the Collins Elite was originally spun out of was a LAP, a limited access program, that no one knew about other than people involved. Someone leaked it, and that's the only reason we know about it today. By the time Justin and his team got involved in researching the Collins Elite was only about 6 or 7 years ago, now in 2024, when I'm writing the summary. In order to learn about the Collins Elite, he had to find out if there were other programs / groups like it over the years of the 1940s to the time of him doing his research. He wanted to confirm with more witnesses than just from one group, to verify that the phenomena is in fact happening. Justin then explains that this is all showcased in higher entities, and it is at this point he brings up Tom Horn from the movie. Tom's brother-in-law was assumed murdered, and the movie was the only time he's ever spoken publicly about his brother-in-law's work at, drumroll, motherfucking Los Alamos. For those who are new to what Los Alamos is, from Wikipedia. Los Alamos, Spanish Los Alamos, meaning the cottonwoods, is a census-designated place in Los Alamos County, New Mexico, United States, that is recognized as one of the development and creation places of the atomic bomb. The primary objective of the Manhattan Project by Los Alamos National Laboratory during World War II. The town is located on 4 mesas of the Pajarito Plateau and had a population of about 13,200 as of 2020. It is the county seat and one of 2 population centers in the county known as Census Designated Places, CDPs. The other is White Rock. Los Alamos National Laboratory, often shortened as Los Alamos and LANL, is one of 16 research and development laboratories of the United States Department of Energy, DOE, located a short distance northwest of Santa Fe, New Mexico. In the American Southwest, best known for its central role in helping develop the first atomic bomb. LANL is one of the world's largest and most advanced scientific institutions. Los Alamos was established in 1943 as Project Y, a top-secret site for designing nuclear weapons under the Manhattan Project during World War II. Chosen for its remote yet relatively accessible location, it served as the main hub for conducting and coordinating nuclear research, bringing together scientists from around the world, among them numerous Nobel Prize winners. The town of Los Alamos, directly north of the lab, grew extensively through this period. After the war ended in 1945, Project Y's existence was made public and it became known universally as Los Alamos. In 1952, the Atomic Energy Commission formed a second design lab under the direction of the University of California, Berkeley, which became the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. LLNL. The 2 labs competed on a wide variety of bomb designs, but with the end of the Cold War have focused increasingly on civilian missions. Today, Los Alamos conducts multidisciplinary research in fields such as national security, space exploration, nuclear fusion, renewable energy, medicine, nanotechnology, and supercomputing. While owned by the federal government, LANL is privately managed and operated by Triad National Security, LLC. And, interestingly, brother-in-law, who worked at Los Alamos, married Tom's sister, who claimed she experienced alien encounters since around 13 years old. Justin says, "There's something about a woman entering puberty that is attractive to the demonic forces." He says he doesn't know why it is a thing, but he believes that it is one. She suffered alien visitations and sleep paralysis as a child, and her daughter, the next generation, when she entered puberty, she too began getting attacked. And then where it gets really crazy is when her husband, who worked at Los Alamos, came home one day, got drunk with his wife, and she started spilling the beans about her experience with aliens. It was until this fateful night she had kept a secret her entire life. At which point, he comes out and says, paraphrased, "We were actually working with this kind of stuff at Los Alamos." He then disclosed to her information that was never shared with Justin, nor is it shown in the films. There's a tip of this iceberg we still don't know about, and will not know about, unless you like to be unalive. We don't know what that guy was doing in the alien base at Los Alamos, but it doesn't really seem like a conspiracy theory when the guy was allegedly killed 24 hours after allegedly disclosing this information to his wife, allegedly. He disappeared and no body was ever found, and he was eventually declared dead, assumed murdered. Put on tinfoil hat. By the government! So dude leaves for work, never shows up. Wife reaches out to his work, says, "Where's my husband?" He left and drove to Los Alamos and never returned home. She then spent years trying to obtain her benefits to pay for all the expenses she's had since her husband's passing. So no body, no death certificate. No death certificate, no benefits. Don't you just love the federal government? After raising a huge stink and appearing in this film, the feds finally gave her the money she was owed. To shut her the fuck up. Justin says that tells him this is not a conspiracy theory, that there's actually fact to there being alien/demonic activity going on at Los Alamos, and that it was so serious that they would have had his house bugged and monitored every single discussion he had. There have been rumors for decades about deep underground military bases under Los Alamos. If you've ever heard the name Bob Lazar, Lazar claims to be a physicist and to have worked in this capacity during his tenure at Los Alamos Mason Physics Facility, and he claims to have worked on alien spacecrafts. That's a whole other rabbit hole for another time, though. Around this point in the conversation, Justin segues back to the story about Admiral Byrd's secret mission to Hollow Earth in Alaska. Why did I say Alaska? Around this point in the conversation, Justin segues back to the story about Admiral Byrd's secret mission to Hollow Earth in Antarctica. Again, that's a whole other rabbit hole for you. But he makes note of how the Admiral had written a wild story about flying planes into a giant opening in the ground and finding a Hollow Earth realm in it with flying saucers that the planes got in dogfights with. And he also described a whole Ice Age land down there with woolly mammoths and all sorts of far out sounding stuff. But the part that Justin is fixated on is the UFOs, which were described to have Nazi iron crosses on them, by the way, and that Admiral Byrd claimed to have nuked the place on his way out of there, and that when he was down in the Hollow Earth, he claimed to have met with an entity called the Master. The Master was warning Admiral Byrd that when he comes back to the surface, he needs to bring a message to the governments of the world to stop fucking around with nukes. And so, back to the dude who got murdered, or disappeared, or abducted by fucking aliens or whatever. According to the sources Justin has claimed, the man who is the husband of the lady who is the sister of the guy, Tom Horn, who Justin interviewed, worked in the underground bases of Los Alamos. As in, this dude was working on alien crafts or whatever. The same shit Bob Lazar claims he was working on. Allegedly, or whatever. And remember, the spiciest part of what this dude told his wife before he vanished, we still don't know. She will likely take that secret, or those secrets, to the grave with her. She's afraid to talk about it for obvious reasons. Whatever it was so serious that 24 hours later her husband was never seen again because he told her about it. Justin then segues again to touch on the topic of the Roswell crash incident. And he explains that when Roswell happened, it was at this point in the timeline when the world was dealing with the fallout of the Babylon working rituals. The opening of the portal, weird shit coming through, fucking aliens, etc. According to Justin, Babylon working changed everything. He believes that it was prophetic on the satanic timeline. He then says, I do believe for a fact that Roswell was a byproduct, referring back to the Babylon working again. He also believes, based on another FBI document he has obtained, of which his organization has over 300 compiled documents supporting their claims. There was more than one craft, and he says there were possibly as many as 9 non-human bodies, according to one specific declassified document that he does not specify the citation of. In his defense, it's not easy to remember the FOIA numbers for 300 plus documents live on a podcast. After explaining the Roswell link to the Babylon working, he then begins talking about Ray Boucher. Ray Boucher is an ordained minister. He's been a Baptist minister, a Lutheran minister, and he is a Lutheran exorcist. Justin explains that he's very picky about who he collaborates with in ministry, and that when he looked into Ray Boucher, all his theology is rock solid and matches what Justin believes to be true based on his lifetime of research. He explains that he was originally told to meet with Ray by a lot of prominent people within the UFO community who had spoken to him, Justin, off the record. 2 of the people he does name are Darren Geisinger and Chad Riley. These sources claimed to Justin that Ray Boucher was met with by bigwigs from the Department of Defense because of his unique background as a minister and exorcist, and as head of MUFON for his state, which is Nebraska, by the way. Justin explains Ray was big within the UFO community since before the internet. So these men in black come from the Department of Defense, come to Ray Boucher and say, "Hello, Mr. Boucher. We work for this secret group that doesn't exist within the DoD, and we'd like to have a word with you. Because of your unique background and all this weird stuff, we need you, guy." And then, allegedly, they then told him that the government had been engaged in occult rituals to communicate with entities. Justin then says, if you don't feel like this is just a recurrence of the Collins elite, but in modern times, Ray says the men in the back told him that the government is engaging in what he calls satanic rituals, and he even said that the DoD contacts hinted at human sacrifices being utilized in these rituals, funded by your tax dollars, allegedly, or whatever. Ray claims that this all started off with the MIBs claiming they just wanted some answers. And he says that turned into a whole "we can do better" mentality. We could do more than this. We can go above and beyond. This is the point in history when the government became addicted to alien technology and furthering its tendrils of power and control over humanity. So Ray Boucher explains to the MIBs that, yes, this stuff is very demonic, and yes, your instincts were correct. This is demonic and shouldn't be done. So the feds knew this to be the case. Demons bad, don't do it. But they still wanted to, and they needed someone like Ray Boucher with his unique background, and this is why he was able to meet with them. Allegedly, according to Justin, these meetings happened twice. And Ray wouldn't even meet with Justin originally and never told this stuff to anyone. Even during his years as the head of Nebraska MUFON, he kept this all secret until Justin's film, for obvious fear of his life. Allegedly, or whatever. Justin says Ray is extremely careful and very standoffish and worries about endangering his family by talking about this stuff without the utmost of caution. Because, remember what happened to that lady's husband? And it was for this reason that Justin was surprised when Ray was willing to speak with him at all, and then disclosed this whole rabbit hole. When Ray agreed to do the interview, he would only do it on specific terms. He wouldn't let Justin know in advance when or where they would meet. He says they didn't find out until the morning of the interview that Ray wasn't even going to meet them at a location. He was instead sending them on a wild goose chase to find him in a random city of their own choosing, and then he showed up to their location. That's how secretive this guy is, because people get murdered for talking about aliens. So then, very shortly after releasing the film, Justin finds out that Ray has been diagnosed with some strange, rare kind of cancer. Justin continues saying, quote, "We are dealing with this idea of government agencies doing anything it takes to keep you from getting the Easter egg. They will kill you, they will blast you with a clandestine top-secret heart attack gun. They will poison you or give you cancer, or give your balls cancer, or they will outright make you disappear, or make your balls disappear. Never to be heard from ever again, forever, and for even finding a sliver of the giant secrets that they are hiding." After explaining Ray Boucher, Justin then name drops Chad Riley and Ray's contact named Greg Remrich, alleged to have above top secret level clearance for areas such as Groom Lake and a whole laundry list of similar locations not mentioned. I'm guessing Marseille, Illinois, Raven Rock, Cheyenne Mountain, the back rooms of the Kansas salt mines, and God knows what fucking else. Chad Riley was in contact with Greg Remrich via another contact named Kay Carswell, who Justin claims as a dear friend to himself. Kay has become friends with Greg Remrich and interviewed him, and so Kay Carswell gave to Greg Remrich all of the data and information that Justin had and his team had compiled for their film. The whole fucking iceberg. And Greg was supposed to be in the film. However, upon receiving the documents from Justin, Greg no longer could be contacted. Justin says, quote, "This guy has been deep underground in these bases with these entities. And Stan Deo didn't work directly with these entities. His colleagues worked with the entities. So Stan's story was hearsay, trustworthy hearsay, but he didn't work with the entities, while Greg, on the other hand, did. And as soon as Justin was ready to interview him, he vanished." Greg claimed to have worked deep underground with these entities, and that they called themselves, drumroll, the Nephilim. According to Justin, they were 9 to 10 feet tall entities, and they told Greg that they were preparing for an intergalactic war against God, and that they are going to win. As in, these alien Nephilim in the underground Los Alamos base claimed they are finna kill God, nigga. Furthermore, Justin claims that Greg Reimerich had to sign an affidavit before even entering the underground facility, saying he would not use the name Jesus, even as a curse word for stubbing his toe. And Justin says this goes back to hundreds of cases of alien abduction claims that have been completely halted at the name of Jesus being proclaimed. Which, yes, I've actually stumbled onto several of those stories in my time watching alien content on YouTube. It's a very common trope within the UFO community and has been since the 1950s. Greg claimed to have worked in multiple underground bases like this. So keep that in mind. And so, this is all going to end with Jesus returning and throwing all the aliens and Nancy Pelosi straight into a bottomless pit. Justin compares all of this to the levels of Freemasonry and how, according to him, in Freemasonry, in the lower levels, you don't know what you're getting into. You go into it blind and believing it can coexist alongside your faith, but in reality, it is its own faith. And by the time you achieve the higher levels, you'll have lost your own faith. He claims somewhere between the 28th and 30th level of Freemasonry before reaching Master, long before, it is revealed that Lucifer is the good guy and really created all the good things in the universe, and God created all the bad things, and Masonry is really an inversion of Christianity and a worshiping of material instead of one's soul in connection to divine source. So back to Greg Reimerich. SWAT teams showed up at his house with machine guns after he began to speak to people about what he'd seen underground. He is alleged to have a broken family now over all the drama it's caused in his life. So then, sometime later, he and his wife were out on his ranch and both of them felt something on the back of their necks, like a bug or something, and described it as some kind of slimy residue. They get home and she immediately falls very ill. This is happening at the same time that Justin is trying to line up an interview with him. Chad Riley ends up telling Justin he's not sure if Greg's wife is going to survive this mystery illness she's become sick with after getting this weird slime on her neck that didn't have any effect on Greg. Justin explains a story he's heard of portals near Four Corners where the natives don't want to go close to these places because it is where they believe cryptids and entities come through. He claims to have been shown this by a cryptozoologist friend of his named J.C. Johnson, whom he claims would go to this place somewhere near Four Corners with the security team armed with machine guns and give guided tours of these portal locations that people are afraid to otherwise visit. Because demon alien portals. So Justin claims several times people would send him photos from these excursions where their cameras would pick up what looked like gray aliens hiding in the bushes. He then says this is all mentionable because J.C. Johnson had friends who worked in Dulce Base in New Mexico doing underground alien research. And those guys told J.C. Johnson that he was getting, quote, too close to the fire. So on J.C.'s final excursion, as he's walking back to their vehicles, allegedly or whatever, Men in Black dusted some sort of biological weapon known as a transdermal on the handles of their car. So, all they had to do was touch the handle. You touch it, it then goes into your bloodstream immediately, and so they touched it and became extremely ill. He doesn't explain the rest of that story, but said when he heard of the weird substance on Greg and his wife's neck, and how she got near fatally ill immediately after it, that makes him think of the story of JC visiting the portals for guided machine gun tours. And so, after that, the interviewer asks Justin his final question, which is if he's afraid the government will goo him to death, too, for talking about this. And he basically sums it up to, I ain't scared of them God-hating bitches. And I agree with him. The end. Wait. Not the end.
But Wolf, you said at the beginning that this ties in with the rise of woke.
You're right. I did say that. And here's how. When I was a teenager and into my early 20s, woke always meant hippie shit, which we can all solidly identify as a runoff, society-wide social experiment on humanity, and a form of soft disclosure. Think of how much of the hippie sphere is dominated with shamans and healers and all of the etc. attaching themselves onto New Age interpretations of ancient texts and philosophies and aliens. And think about how forever woke meant you were into conspiracy stuff and knew about all the good aliens and etc. All the dumb Gaia Channel hippie shit. Then fast forward to post 2014, after Ferguson, Missouri, woke all of a sudden meant you know about social justice, especially topics which incite racism and division, such as DEI and social equity movements. I'm fed up with being demonized over my skin color and what people hundreds of years ago did to people that aren't you. Sorry, not sorry. Got a problem with it? Come on my podcast and explain why you're an unhinged racist. Suddenly, woke was completely redefined, and then in come the bad actors, all the blue-haired, black clothing-wearing freaks who openly identify with Satanism are all suddenly aligned with these same social movements that no one into conspiracy theories will dare call themselves woke, as woke has shifted into an obvious psyop. And like I said, the tribe of woke is filled with people who align themselves with these occult orders. So yeah, that's my theory. Sorry if you're woke. I could go way deeper into it, but that would necessitate a 6-hour conversation about Ted Gunderson, which maybe I'll do in a future video. Oh my god, this was the longest one yet. Thank God it's finally over. Did you like it? I worked my damn ass off on this one, and it took multiple weeks to pump out. Please like, subscribe, drop a comment, showing some love, and consider buying some merch and helping me buy another bag of dog food. I've been working super hard recently, adding new designs to my Shopify store in time for Christmas shopping. And I figured out how to do custom coupons for anyone who messages me requesting a deal. Right now, for everyone, you can grab one of my Cucks for Kamala flags to anger your neighbors and get $10 off by using coupon code 1776. Seriously, everyone, I'm a one-man production, and this is a ton of work I'm putting in without even breaking 500 followers. Show some damn love. And love thyself, and love thy neighbor, and be kind to animals. And, as always, stay cursed. I'm out. Oh, and also, show some love to Tanya'sArtGallery.com and the Yanziiii channel on YouTube. They are two of my best friends, and they are Lily's best friends. Yanziiii has a YouTube channel that promotes this channel, and I help co-produce videos for her when I'm able to fit them into my schedule. Speaking of which, I just did the sound for her recent video, and it fucking slaps. Check it out. And Tanya is Yanziii's partner and a really talented painter specializing in classy home decor pieces on canvas. You've been looking for a piece that will fill a wall in your house and you want something that matches your aesthetic, you gotta check out Tanya'sArtGallery.com. This isn't a paid sponsored plug, by the way. I am not sponsored. I'm just making a shout out for something I actually believe in. Right now, during the holidays, for a limited time, Tanya is offering massive discounts on most of her paintings. One that I myself priced at $450 is being let go for $30 right now. So why is Tanya doing this if her shit doesn't suck? Tanya is offering these prices to get the word out, and you can help. By purchasing one of these paintings, it not only will free up some much needed space. Remember, we live in apartments, and we don't have sponsors paying for a big studio space yet. But your purchase of a Tanya original painting will also help us establish the brand and further our reach. All things Cursed Content are all things Tanya's Art Gallery, as much as all things Yanziiii are all things VVVLF. These folks are my festival family, so when you purchase a painting from Tanya, it helps me get out and do fun shit, helping her hustle her paintings. Remember, I got that gift of gab, and I'm trained in telemarketing sales. So put me in front of a booth full of paintings that I genuinely think are fucking amazing, and offer me a festival ticket, and yeah, I'm gonna help you out. Which is why you should help us out. We're at a turning point right now in modern history. It's either T-minus a month till the world literally ends, or we're about to see the most revolutionary process ever to unfold happen right in front of our eyes. They've been talking about completely fixing our government right now here in America, as NATO is simultaneously preparing for nuclear war with Russia. So really, in that scenario, all we can do is hope for the best and love our friends and family and show some support. So, have some self-love by purchasing one of these amazing handmade original art pieces from Tanya. And help us make it to some festivals this upcoming summer. You can even reach out to us and we can meet you at a festival to sign it. All love and buy some merch or I hate you. Now I'm actually out. Stay cursed. Boom.